A few weeks ago, I ran my first ever half marathon. It was the longest I had ever run in my life. I had trained for it for over 6 months, and when I finally finished, I fell into the deepest depression I've had all year. So let's talk about that. What I love about this channel is that now when I'm having some sort of problem, I don't just let it happen to me. I think, oh, this could be a topic for a video, and then I do research, which leads me to realizing that what I'm going through is totally normal, and that kind of helps with getting through it. Anyway, the thing that I was feeling is called the arrival fallacy, because apparently our brains like the chase more than the reward. There were other factors as well that led me down this dark path, which I only recognized afterwards when I was thinking about the days after I completed the half marathon. One was that I injured myself. Two was that I rewarded myself a little bit too much, which sent me kind of down a spiral. And finally, comparison. I'm not sure if it happened because of the half marathon, but the day after I walked to the grocery store and the bottom of my foot started hurting. It went away, but came back when I tried to go on my next run a couple of days later. I even had to start walking because of the pain that I was in. And that led me to just not leave the apartment at all. My swim training is on break for the summer, and I had gotten used to going for a run every other day that I didn't even think of just going for a walk as a possibility. Before I knew it, I was spending days inside, only really leaving the apartment to go grocery shopping. And then the rewards. I've begun to notice that I kind of have an everything or nothing approach to candy, snacks, and even alcohol, pretty much anything that I see as a treat. What I mean with that is that if I tell myself that I'm not going to have any candy, any snacks, or any alcohol, I can do that, no problem. The idea was that I would reward myself with a nice, expensive, imported from Germany beer after I've finished. But once I had that one beer, the next time I was at the grocery store, I decided to get bad, cheap, local beer because why not? And that just led me to drink more often. I bought more bags of candy than I'd like to admit, and I was snacking a lot again. All because I still felt like I was rewarding myself with things that I stayed away from while training. The problem is that I overcorrected and gained 5 kilos in 2 weeks, which obviously also didn't help with my mood. And finally, comparison. I was honestly really happy when I finished. I was tired and my body hurt. I think this is the biggest thing that I have achieved since I was a teenager. And definitely the most effort I put into like a singular goal ever. So yeah, of course I got emotional. The half marathon was going to be my very first race ever. But then I found that there was a local race that did 5Ks and 10Ks, a winter running series. I decided to do one 5K and one 10K just to kind of see what it's like to run an official race. My goal for the 5K was to be under 30 minutes, and I ran it in 24:44. I wanted my 10K to be under an hour, and I ran it in 54:39. So because of the extra length, I thought it would be a good idea to set my goal for the half marathon at 2.5 hours. I found the pacers before the start, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to be able to keep up with them. For some reason, I thought I had to run a 6:30 pace in order to do 2.5 hours. I don't know why. I guess math isn't my strong suit. It's actually a 7-minute pace. So I actually kept up with them comfortably and then ended up passing them. I am a little annoyed that I didn't set my goal to be under 2 hours, but I was struggling with a lot of knee pain and other injuries leading up to the half marathon, so it wouldn't have been realistic anyway. I ended up finishing it in 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 19 seconds, and I was really happy until I saw the data. Then it really sunk in how unimpressive a 2.5 hour time was. I was so far behind, only being faster than 391 people out of 2,729. Now it's a source of inspiration, Next year, I'm going to run it in under 2 hours. But in the moment, I felt so defeated. And the most ridiculous part was on Threads. I posted that I had just run my first half marathon, and I was getting a lot of likes and comments, people congratulating me. And then I came across one post of one other guy who had also just run his first half marathon in 1.5 hours. And that one post ruined everything. It was like all the praise that I had just gotten evaporated and meant nothing. There were other parts of that day that were difficult for me, including certain unrealistic hopes that I had that obviously weren't met. Suffice it to say, it was hard. But it's not uncommon. Everything I just described is so typical after achieving a big goal. This could be like getting a promotion that you've been working really hard for, or buying something that you've been looking forward to and saving up for a really long time. It's this feeling of, oh, that's it? As I mentioned before, our brains love chasing a goal. That's why it's so important to have them. Getting those little hits of dopamine every time you do one thing that moves you closer to the goal is what keeps us going. Every time I pushed myself to go for a run, despite the weather, I felt good about myself. I was moving closer to my goal, but then it was all over. It's been a month since the half marathon, and I've been for a run twice. Mostly because my foot still hasn't gotten better, but also I don't really have a reason to. I achieved my goal. I'm done, right? And that's the next thing, this vacuum of purpose. I spent so much time thinking about this goal, making plans around my running schedule so that I could keep up with an exercise plan. When I planned meals, I chose food that would grow muscle and not make me feel heavy when going for a run. But afterwards, that goal was just gone. I didn't have to think like that anymore. I started to make bad food choices again because I felt like it doesn't matter if I lie on the couch after I've eaten way too much food. And I probably could be back to running regularly again if I put any effort into healing my foot instead of just letting it be. When I had knee pains during my training, I learned about ways to strengthen it. I did recovery runs and all that because I had a goal. I couldn't just sit around and wait for it to heal itself. So I let myself eat what I want and didn't go out for a run or even a walk, all because I just didn't have a reason to do anything different. Other things that can make you feel bad after completing a goal is the expectations that you've set up for yourself. When I finished, they just handed me the medal, gave me some drinks, some snacks, and that was it. I stretched for a bit and then just sat down in the grass, ate the snacks, drank the drinks, and just sat there. I don't know what I really expected. I just felt empty. It's like I expected my life to completely change now that I've done a half marathon, but obviously it didn't. Thankfully, a friend did show up a couple of minutes later and we went out for a pizza to celebrate. I can't imagine what it would have felt like if I had been completely alone afterwards and then just packed my bags, got on the bus and went home. As is typical, once a problem has a name, it usually has a solution. So what can we do to prevent these feelings after achieving a goal? Well, I've got 4 methods for you. A multi-goal approach can help you move seamlessly from one goal to the next, but balance is important. Technically, I do have multiple goals, but they're kind of in the same category. I want to do a full marathon, triathlons, and eventually an Ironman. But since none of those goals are specific and more of just like one day in the future kind of goals, it didn't really help. It would be perfect to have an active goal like running and then an inactive goal like finally setting specific goals for this YouTube channel. Something that I can work on while recovering from a big race, for example. Reframe success. It's not the destination, it's the journey. I know it's super cliche, but it's true. I was so focused on just finishing the half marathon that I didn't even think about every step along the way as a success. It had become the pursuit of just that one thing and nothing else, which ties in perfectly to the next piece of advice: set realistic expectations. I really, truly thought that my life was going to be different after finishing the half marathon. I thought I would look better because of all the exercise. I thought there would be at least one good picture of me during the race. And I thought that one specific person was going to reach out to me afterwards. None of that happened because it was unrealistic. But it didn't matter how unrealistic it was, because in the moment I got disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Seriously, the worst part was that there was not a single picture of me where I wasn't in the background or on the very outside of the frame. Just a really harsh realization that I am not the main character. The last way to prevent this arrival fallacy is to remember to celebrate. I am so happy that I didn't have to be alone after my race. It was something that I was truly, really worried about. When I ran my 10K in under an hour, it was a huge achievement for me, and I just felt horrible. I did it alone, surrounded by people who had their friends, their families, their loved ones there to cheer them on. It really looked like I was the only one there who was alone, and it felt horrible. And as a result, I didn't celebrate that achievement at all. I didn't post about it, I didn't talk about it, I just walked home. At least this time I did celebrate my achievement a little. At least I did have someone there afterwards, and I did go for lunch. But as soon as I was alone again, I couldn't help but compare myself to others, which made me think that my achievement wasn't that great. And I started believing that what I had just done wasn't impressive in the slightest. So when you're about to achieve your goal, remember, it's not going to change your life. Keep your other goals in mind. Enjoy the process and actually celebrate your achievement. Oh, and don't fucking compare yourself to others. If you've done something that you never thought was possible for you, you have every right to be happy and celebrate that achievement, no matter what anyone else has done. Oh, and before this video is over, I do want to thank my mom for buying me a bunch of electrolytes that kept me going throughout my training and the half marathon, and my dad for buying me long distance running shoes. So I guess you can say my first half marathon was sponsored by my parents. So thank you for that. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Peace.
Fuck this. It sucks so much. Can't even keep my eyes open. So much snow or whatever. This feels awesome.